Gannam, that's right. Good evening, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address you tonight. My name is Rodger Gannam. I have worked alongside several organizations in the field of religious liberty litigation. I've been invited to testify before Jacksonville City Council, Clay County School Board, other individual elected officials on these issues. But I am, for all intents and purposes, local. I live and work in Jacksonville. I patronize the businesses of Atlantic Beach. My son goes to school with Atlantic Beach residents at the Duval County Magnet School he attends. I spend a fair amount of time in Atlantic Beach. So I'm not an import. I'm not here to impose some other vicinity or some other jurisdiction's values in Atlantic Beach. What I do hope to do through just a discussion of the facts, of the law, and reason is to hopefully get us away from the emotional aspects of this, and even to some extent suspend for a moment that everyone's coming at this with good intentions. Who is not in favor of equality? Who's not in favor of non-discrimination? Those are pretty universally accepted principles. But what I'll argue, and what I hope to be able to persuade you is that this law in concept is not good for Atlantic Beach. And certainly this is not a criticism of Mr. Commando. I don't think you can write one of these laws that is good. And the reasons are, especially in 2014 and specifically in Atlantic Beach, Florida, this law is not necessary. This law will cause more discrimination than it prevents. And this law will cause real harm to individuals and businesses based on some of the issues that you've already been discussing. So let's start with what this law really says as it's currently written. Federal and state law already provides a prohibition against discrimination on the basis of sex, race, national origin, color, religion, age, disability. This law, even though it addresses all of those issues, it's not adding anything to the categories. So right now, every citizen of Atlantic Beach is already covered by those non-discrimination laws at the state and federal level. And so the only category this law is adding is sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. So this, let's be clear, this is a gay and transgender rights ordinance. That's what this ordinance is about. That's what it's adding to the landscape. There's some other particularly bad parts of the law that I'll get into in a moment. But understanding that it is a gay and transgender rights ordinance, I think you have to ask the question, is it needed? I don't think we, at any level of government, should pass non-discrimination laws that expand the police power of a community, that impose more litigation on its citizens unless there is a need for it. And so if you look around, I think you have to say, where is the big discrimination problem in Atlantic Beach? I don't think there is one. I don't think there is any systematic or widespread discrimination against anyone in Atlantic Beach that would justify even going down this road. And understanding that it's not necessary, or maybe to add some flavor to that, in 2008 you went out to the study of Jacksonville residents, your next door neighbor. And in 2008, 95% of the people who responded believed that gays should be treated equally in the workplace. So if you think about that, in 2008, 95% of the respondents said gays should be treated equally in the workplace. I don't think there was a discrimination problem in 2008. And if we're honest, I think we have to say that attitudes toward gays, lesbians, transgenders, any category, has gotten more accepting. It hasn't gotten less accepting in the 6 years that have gone since then. So through that kind of analysis, we can see that there's really no big problem that needs to be addressed. I'll give you another piece of information. One of the leading gay demographers, a self-proclaimed gay man, Gary Gates, says that gay people consider the existence of this type of law very little. So basically they give it little to no consideration in choosing where to live. So if the argument is we need a law like this to attract people to our community, whether it's to attract talent to work in our businesses or whether it's to attract residents, there's simply no evidence to support that that's the case. Gay people move to communities for the same reasons that everyone else does. Good beaches, nice weather, a good economy, a nice atmosphere. So if you look at the main reasons why people argue that we need a non-discrimination law, A, that there's a non-discrimination problem, or B, that we need it to attract a certain group of people to our community, it simply isn't true. There's no evidence, there's no facts to support it, especially in 2014. So now that we've seen what's not real, and that is justifications for a law like this. Let's look at what is real. Any time that a law like this is passed, it is a real threat to the religious liberty of the individuals and the business owners in the community where it's passed.
I'm sorry, what did you say for the religious liberty? I didn't hear you because someone coughed.
I'm sorry. Wherever these laws are passed, they become a threat to religious liberty of the individuals, including business owners, in the jurisdiction where they're passed. If you think about it, and we'll talk about some of these real-life stories that I included in my memorandum. And by the way, I apologize for the length of it, but I hope by the length of it you'll see that there's a lot of serious issues, and there's been a lot of serious analysis on this subject that is worth your reading before you vote on this. But whenever you have a business owner or an individual who objects to homosexual behavior on a moral basis, based on a sincerely held religious belief, not out of malice, not because they're looking to discriminate against someone or deny a service to someone, but they believe that, based on a religious belief, that it's immoral. You're going to pit that business owner's religious beliefs against a law like this, and what happens in many cases is that business owner is coerced into either compromising their religious beliefs, which in America, a country founded on religious liberty, that's just, it's not acceptable, at least I don't think it should be. Or they risk being fined right out of existence. Here's where we'll give the example of the New Mexico photographer, Elaine Photography. Elaine Photography was a small business. Elaine herself was a photographer, and she had a journalism degree. Her service was to tell a story about whatever event she covered. In New Mexico, at the time, and I don't know if it's changed, same-sex marriage was not a legal right. However, people don't have to have a legal right to marriage to have a same-sex commitment ceremony, or even have a wedding for that matter. They happen in Florida all the time. But in New Mexico, she shared with the gay couple, a lesbian couple actually, who came into her, that it would be against my sincerely held religious belief to participate and promote your same-sex commitment ceremony. Now understand what her service was. She would be asked to go and videotape the ceremony, not just push record on the camera, but to cast it in its best light, and then to edit it. The request was, to get images of them looking lovingly into each other's eyes. I mean, anyone who's ever hired a wedding photographer knows you're not just hiring someone to snap some pictures. You want them to make it beautiful. You want that photographer to invest their creative abilities into making your event look good, to casting it in its best light. And to Elaine, that was participating and promoting in a conduct that she didn't believe in. Now, she had, in fact, in the past, photographed gay customers. She would never turn anyone away from being gay. But when she was asked to use her creative expression and to apply it into this event and participate in it and promote it and cast it in its best light, she said, that's where I'll draw the line. That would violate my conscience. That would violate my religious principles. Now, the photographers easily found someone else to photograph the wedding and to charge them less than Elaine would have. But they nonetheless filed a complaint against her with the New Mexico Human Rights Commission. And the law in New Mexico was a state-level law. And at great emotional and it would have been financial expense to them were it not for an organization, Alliance Defending Freedom, that I've worked with. They've spent almost a quarter of their lives in this fight, and it's gone through every level of court in New Mexico, ultimately to the New Mexico Supreme Court, where they said, well, you know what? We understand that you have a sincerely held religious belief, but compromising that belief, that's the cost of citizenship. So what we see from this is that we can't count on courts to protect our sincerely held religious beliefs in light of a law like this. Now that law is reviewed in the United States Supreme Court, has been sought. Whether they'll grant it or not, we still don't know. But if you look at the case of Elaine Photography, in the case of the Christian cake decorator or baker, the Christian florist, most of these cases are very similar. No one's looking to discriminate against someone, and they would gladly serve any customer who walks through the door. I mean, we all have an economic incentive who are in business to serve anyone who comes in the door. But when you're asked to apply your creative ability to promote a behavior that you disagree with on moral grounds, well, that's asking you to violate your conscience, and the First Amendment gives us all protections based on conscience. And so the rest of the stories, you can see the hands-on designs, you can see the bed and breakfast operators. They're all in my memo, and I hope you'll read them and see that these are real people who have become victims of these non-discrimination laws, where the person who made the complaint was never not able to find the service that they were looking for. And the whole purpose of non-discrimination laws when they were conceived was to make sure that people in whatever group they were had access to services and had access to employment. But we don't have cases in 2014 where anyone is really denied services or denied employment based on the group that they're in, whether it's because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. In addition to the threats to religious liberty, the financial cost and the practical cost to businesses and individuals is very high. And that's where I have some specific comments about the current draft of your ordinance. In most cases where these laws are passed, especially at the local level, there's an administrative agency. Jacksonville has the Human Rights Commission. Of the 14 that Mr. Commando reviewed, I think in all but 3 of them, and 2 of them were Monroe County and Key West, so they're essentially the same place. So in all but 3 of